The NHL is scared of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now with Austin Matthews hitting 65 goals and some stellar play from their goaltending, the Maple Leafs are looking like a wagon going into this year's playoffs, and could they be Stanley Cup champions for the first time since 67? I'll break it all down for you coming up on this episode of Hattrick HQ, but before we get into it, just gotta say that 74.5% of you guys watching these videos aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you're a big Leafs fan, big NHL fan, and you're looking for a home or second, third home for hockey content here on YouTube, you found it right here at Hattrick HQ, so make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button. But with that said, let's get right into the main topic of the video today, which is the NHL is scared of the Leafs. And yes, like I said here, with some stellar play from Austin Matthews and their netminders, the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking like a wagon going into the playoffs this year and looking like they could steal a few series here and make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. And I know what you're thinking. That is a crazy statement to say, KC, but as a Montreal Canadiens fan myself, it is really painful for me to say that. It is hard for me to say the Leafs are looking like they're going to win the Stanley Cup, but they are. It is hard for me to say that Austin Matthews is the best goal scorer in our era. Yes, it is hard for me to say that, but these things are true, and the way that the Toronto Maple Leafs are playing lately, they just look like a team that is complete. Finally, this season, they look like a team that, you know, they can go out there and they can win games. They can take a series from a team like the Boston Bruins, like the Tampa Bay Lightning, like the Florida Panthers. They are looking like a team that can do this. And like I said, it is hard for me to say that. I hate saying it, but to me, it just seems factual. Like, I sat down and I watched that Leafs game last night, and the team just is playing great. They're just so complete right now, and with one of the best guys in the NHL on their team, arguably maybe the top two, maybe top player in some eyes in the league, with Austin Matthews on your team. I mean, you're just set up for success. You also have stars like William Nylander, like Mitch Marner, guys who are going to contribute on the nightly basis for this team, and going into the playoffs, if they can continue on the streak they could be great. And like I mentioned earlier, Austin Matthews hit 65 goals last night. And this is the most goals in a season in the last 30 years. Mario Lemieux with 69 and 95-96. And Austin Matthews with his 65th last night puts him with Alex Ovechkin for 65 in a season over this last era. So with 5 more games to play and 5 goals to hit 70, this guy could break a record that hasn't been set since the 92-93 season, where Teemu Selanne set the record of 70 goals. And I just think that this guy, man, he's just phenomenal. Like I've said in multiple videos over this past year on Austin Matthews, he is just a stellar player. He may be one of the best goal scorers of all time. Definitely, in my eyes, the greatest Leaf of all time at this point in his career, and it just seems to me like with what he's done this year to put pucks in the back of the net, his vision, obviously everybody knows his shot, the best shot in the NHL, it is lethal, but to have that sense, to have that IQ, to put pucks where he's putting pucks is unbelievable. And like I mentioned here, Austin Matthews scores goal number 65 to match Alex Ovechkin for the most in a single season by any active player in the NHL. So this means Austin Matthews is right there. He's with Alex Ovechkin, a guy who people have been for years saying is the best goal scorer of all time, could be up there for the best goal scorer of all time. And now you have a guy in Austin Matthews who is still kind of young, in my opinion, that is matching these records. Obviously, Ovechkin did these things around the same age as Matthews, give or take a few years there. But Austin Matthews still has so much potential. He has so much, he has so much time to be getting 70 goal seasons consistently, well, not consistently, but to be getting 70 goal seasons within his career. And we've seen this. I mean, last year, everybody said, oh my God, Austin Matthews, he's in the dirt right now. He only scored 40 goals. And what did he do? Come out, and he now has 65. And with 5 games in hand to score 5 goals to match Teemu Selanne, he could definitely do this, because in his last 5 games, he is on a 5-game goal streak with 6 goals in 5 games. So he can easily come out and do this. But why are the Toronto Maple Leafs a wagon right now? And this is the next thing I'm going to talk about here. And if we look at the standings, he has 99 points. They have 99 points within their conference, within the Eastern Conference. Sits them third, clinching a playoff spot, which we already know. The Florida Panthers have 102. And Boston has 107. Could the Maple Leafs overtake Florida? Maybe. They could. If Florida loses a few games here down the stretch and the Leafs keep continuing on this road that they are on right now, they could easily, bump up to the second seed in the playoffs. Is it likely to happen? It is, but not really. I think that Florida is such a good team as well that I don't think they can lose, their last couple of games here to, drop down into the third seed. I think the Leafs are going to continue the way they are right now, while just barreling through the end of the season with Austin Matthews just potting goals every night. Yes, I do believe that, but I don't think that they will overtake Florida in the regular season. Do I think they take them in a 7-game playoff series? Yes, I really do. I really think they do. And why is that? And that is just because of the stellar play from Ilya Samsonov. And if we take a look at Ilya Samsonov's last 5 games, he has a shutout. He has a .912, a .923, a .939 save percentage. Obviously, that one game against Florida, he did have an .867 save percentage. But over the last 5 games with, having these over 900 save percentage games with a shutout in the mix, it really does prove a point here that Ilya Samsonov, to me, will be their playoff starter. And do I think he can lock it in and shut down Florida, where we've seen him in these last 5 games? He had a struggle game against them. I really do think he can, because he's just ever since he went on that mental break down with the Marlies just to kind of get himself right and then came back, he has been one of the best goalies in the entire league, in my opinion. He's a guy who's going to steal goals from other teams. His play in the net is crazy. His eyesight and his just IQ, his vision of where the puck is going to go, and to get his body, get his glove, get his blocker, his pads in front of that is great. And from what I've seen of Ilya Samsonov as of late, I really do see he goes into this playoffs as a starter, and he's really that storyline. Every year we see a storyline of a goalie kind of break out in the playoffs. We've seen it with Jordan Binnington. I think this is Ilya Samsonov's year to steal games in the playoffs for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I know you can make a case for Joseph Woll, but ever since he's came back from that injury, he hasn't really been as consistent as Ilya Samsonov. Yes, he is a great goalie, and in a pinch, if they need to throw him in a playoff game, will he go out there and get a win? I truly believe he will. I think he's still young. He still has lots of time to develop here, and I think that he's going to be a great goalie in Toronto. He already is. I just think right now, the way Ilya Samsonov is playing, he will go in there as the starter for the playoffs this year. But there's another side of the Toronto Maple Leafs that people are kind of underestimating here, and that is when you look at their point leaders. Obviously, we talked about Marner. Great passer, great defender, great guy who, is a 200-foot player for this team. Everybody knows about Mitch Marner. Everybody knows about William Nylander. Multiple 10-game-plus point streaks this season, sitting right now with 96 points going into the last 5 games of the season. We see John Tavares, who has 60 points as well, or 60 points this season in 75 games. Obviously, John Tavares Johnny T has been looking good for this team, has been scoring great goals this year, getting himself in front of the net, getting where he needs to be to get those points on the board. But one guy who is overlooked for this Toronto Maple Leafs team is Max Domi. This guy has 43 points in 77 games, 34 assists, 9 goals. And yes, he has been playing with Austin Matthews as of late. And do I see this going forward? Probably not, because Mitch Marner is back, and I think Marner and Matthews has so much chemistry up there on that top line. I don't think they keep him up there. Will they put him up there in a pinch? Maybe in a game where they need an offensive spark? They might. I could see that happening. But one thing about Max Domi, that a lot of people, he gets looked over a lot on this Toronto Maple Leafs team because they have Auston Matthews, the best goal scorer of our era, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares, Morgan Rielly, Ilya Samsonov. But Max Domi is such a solid guy, and coming from a Montreal Canadiens fan to you Toronto Maple Leafs fans, Max Domi, it has to be one of my favorite Habs players in recent memory. This is a guy who's going to go out there and not just play hockey, but he's going to put everything into his game to make your team win. He goes out there with his heart on his sleeve. He just does everything out there to try to make an impact for your team, and this is what you're getting in the playoffs from a guy like Max Domi. This is a guy, like I said, 34 assists so far this season. Obviously, a great playmaker. We've seen him, pot a lot of assists, even score a few goals this season. But it's the things off the stat sheet like Max Domi does. Great defender. He can go out there and he can get in the mix with a fight every now and then if he is called upon to do so. And like I said, this guy's the heart of your team. He's going to be the heart and soul of this Leafs team going into the playoffs. He's going to be getting the boys fired up a lot in the dressing room. Same kind of thing as Ryan Reeves, I think it will as well. But Max Domi, if he gets in this he will be in this bottom six. We could argue maybe he might be top six the way he's playing as of late. But I'm just going to go off to what we've seen most of the season of him being in the bottom six. I think that he will make a big impact for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. And every year, I talked about this yesterday, there are guys who kind of break out of their shell. I talked about it earlier with Ilya Samsonov during the playoffs, and I think this guy, like I said yesterday, Bobby McMahon could be one of these guys, but another one of these guys that I think could be this breakout kind of guy for Toronto in the playoffs is Max Domi. I think this guy just wants it. He wants the cup. He wants to bring it back to Toronto. His dad was in Toronto for so many years. He just wants to bring a cup to this city, and I think that with that motivation and that, drive that he has, going out there on the ice is going to turn into impactful scoring chances and stuff for this guy that in the playoffs are going to be crucial for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. But that's enough of me yapping about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I really do think that they are going to win the Stanley Cup, as much as it pains me to say. I think this is the year, it's an overused term, but this is the year I think the Toronto Maple Leafs do it. If there's any year where the Leafs are going to pull it out of the hat and do it, it is going to be this year. They have so many physical guys on defense that are just going to beat up on teams all series long, and I think this is going to help the Toronto Maple Leafs in the sense that they're going to be going against tired guys and they're going to be, beating up on teams. And I know it's painful for me to say that Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup, but they are. There's no doubt about it. We're going to get into the next topic of the video today, which is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today goes to Matthew. Matthew says, Reeves was always meant for the playoffs. He's going to play a bigger role in the playoffs for sure. And I couldn't agree with you more, Matthew. I talked about this on yesterday's video about Ryan Reeves. I think Ryan Reeves, like Max Domi I talked about earlier, is going to be the heart of this team. We see him every time he gets into a fight. Matthews is leaning over the bench, tapping his stick. He just fires the boys up whenever he gets in the mix, wherever he lays a big body. And I think this is where Reeves is going to impact this team come playoff time, and where he's going to make the haters, shut their yap about, him being overpaid and stuff like this. I think he's paid to do what he does, and he's one of the best that does it. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road for 3,500 subscribers here on the channel. So if you like the Leafs, if you like the NHL, and you like hearing some crazy takes come out of my mouth, make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to check out that video we did yesterday talking about Ryan Reeves, it'll be popping up on your screen right now. But as always, I've been your host, KC. Keep your stick on the ice.